Your current circumstances are not your final destination. That truth alone, if you let it take root in your spirit, can change the entire trajectory of your life. Most people get stuck because they've mistaken their situation for their identity. They look at the bills, the overdraft fees, the rejection emails, the unpaid invoices, and they say, "This must be who I am." But what you are going through is not who you are. It's just what you're passing through. Just like a passenger on a train doesn't live at every stop, you don't have to claim every season of struggle as your permanent address. One of the greatest lies people believe is that their environment defines them. If you grew up in poverty, that doesn't mean you're destined to die broke. If you've been surrounded by small-minded people who criticize dreams and celebrate mediocrity, that doesn't mean you have to lower your standard. The danger is not being in a low place. The danger is staying there by choice because you think you belong there. Circumstances can shape your current decisions, but they should never shape your long-term identity. That's where people go wrong. They internalize temporary problems as permanent truths. The reason so many stay stuck in the struggle is because they haven't learned how to separate their conditions from their calling. Just because you're working a job you hate right now doesn't mean your future isn't tied to entrepreneurship. Just because you're living paycheck to paycheck doesn't mean wealth isn't part of your legacy. You've got to stop confusing where you are with where you're going. Life is seasonal, and that means the current storm will pass. But you've got to be building while it's raining. The future isn't built on feelings, it's built on faith, and that faith starts with a decision. You don't need the money to change your life. You need the mindset. When you begin to see yourself as more than what your environment reflects, you'll start acting differently. You'll talk differently. You'll show up with intention, even when nothing around you validates the vision yet. That's how shift begins, not with evidence, but with belief. And belief is the first seed of transformation. The story you tell yourself is the script of your life. Every thought you repeat becomes a line in the mental screenplay that directs your decisions, your responses, your risks, and your results. People think change begins with action, but that's not true. Change begins with narrative. You can't live a powerful life with a pitiful story playing in your head. If your internal dialogue says you're always behind, always unlucky, always failing, then your external life will conform to match that identity. The mind is a servant, not a master. It carries out whatever instructions you consistently give it, whether those instructions serve your future or sabotage it. Too many people live under the weight of old words, things spoken over them by parents, teachers, friends, or even themselves. You'll never be enough. People like you don't succeed. You always mess things up. These words take root, and before long they become internal truths. But what they really are is borrowed scripts, passed down from someone else's broken belief system. Just because someone spoke, it doesn't mean you have to keep rehearsing it. And just because you've repeated it doesn't mean you can't rewrite it. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you believe. That's why it's dangerous to speak defeat over your own destiny. Every time you say, "I'm just not good with money," your brain files that statement and looks for ways to make it true. Every time you say, "I'm not leadership material," you subconsciously avoid situations that would grow you into the leader you were called to be. Your story isn't just descriptive, it's predictive. It creates a future that mirrors your internal identity. This is why successful people protect their internal narrative like treasure. They speak what they want to see, even before there's any evidence. They rehearse truth until it drowns out doubt, and they don't allow their past mistakes to dictate the next chapter. The mind will believe what it hears most often. So if you want to rewrite your life, you've got to rewrite your language. It starts with replacing excuses with declarations. "I don't have time" becomes "I'm making time." I've never done this before becomes I'm learning fast. No one supports me. Becomes I am becoming the kind of person others want to follow. Every word you speak is either a prison or a passport. It either locks you into limitation or gives you access to a higher level. Mindset is a multiplier, not a modifier. It doesn't change who you are at your core. It amplifies what's already there. That's why two people can go through the same struggle, face the same setbacks, and have access to the same opportunities. Yet one rises and the other stays stuck. It's not because of luck. It's not because of background. It's because of the lens through which they interpret life. When your mindset is rooted in scarcity, you see problems everywhere. When your mindset is built on possibility, you see opportunities even in pain. The lens determines the lesson, and the lesson determines the leap. People often say, I just need to fix my mindset. But mindset isn't something you fix like a broken chair. It's something you feed, with thoughts, with words, with repetition. A growth mindset doesn't happen by accident, it happens by design. Most people are trying to move forward in life with a mindset that's still programmed for survival. They've never updated the mental software to match the new level they're trying to reach. And so, instead of multiplying results, they keep magnifying the reasons why it won't work. They dream big but think small. They want abundance but plan for average. They ask for more but prepare for less. And that contradiction keeps them stuck in the cycle. The truth is, your mind is always working. It's either working for you or against you. It's either multiplying your excuses or multiplying your effort. Mindset multiplies discipline, clarity, creativity, faith, and decision making. When you're anchored in purpose and guided by vision, your mindset becomes a powerful tool to navigate uncertainty, not something that needs to be rescued when things get tough. But when your mindset is weak, every little challenge becomes a crisis. Every no feels like a personal attack. Every delay feels like a denial, and you end up retreating instead of adapting. The most dangerous mindset is not failure, it's neutrality. The belief that your thoughts don't matter, that your words are just words, that your inner world has no impact on your outer results. That lie keeps people average, because if your mindset doesn't move, nothing else will. Strategy without belief collapses. Talent without mindset fizzles. Resources without clarity get wasted, and action without purpose becomes exhausting. So the multiplier effect isn't just about doing more. It's about thinking higher, speaking stronger, and aligning everything you do with who you're becoming, not just where you've been. Income follows. Impact, not intention. The world doesn't pay you for how badly you want success. It pays you for the problems you solve. You can spend years dreaming, visualizing, praying, journaling, and hoping. But if you're not creating value that someone else recognizes, you'll always stay stuck in the land of potential. And potential without production is poverty in disguise. A lot of people say, I deserve more, but the marketplace doesn't pay based on desire, it pays based on delivery. The moment you begin to align your gifts with someone else's pain point, you create demand, and where there's demand, there's income. Most people are focused on income goals when they should be focused on value goals. Income is a result, it's a receipt. It shows up after you've delivered transformation. That transformation might come through a product, a service, a solution, or even a perspective. But if it doesn't help someone else move from a problem to a promise, you're not in business, you're in fantasy. Intention says, I want to help people. Impact says, here's how I've already helped people, and here's the result they got. That's the difference between being hopeful and being useful. You don't rise by raising your prices. You rise by raising your usefulness. Some people think, if I charge more, I'll earn more. But if your value hasn't increased, your price is just inflated. You must be able to articulate and deliver a result that matters to someone who is willing and able to pay for it. That's where wealth is built, not in the transaction, but in the transformation. If people's lives are better because they encountered your work, they won't just pay you, they'll promote you. You can have all the right intentions, but if you don't know how to communicate your value, you'll be invisible in the marketplace. The world is noisy, everyone's saying something, but impact cuts through the noise. It says, I don't just talk, I transform. And when you become known for creating outcomes, people will seek you out, refer you, and reward you. That's why you can't afford to build your business or your career around what you like. You have to build around what others need and are willing to invest in. When you shift your mindset from income chasing to impact creating, you unlock a different level of purpose and power. Because in every industry, in every economy, and in every era, the people who solve problems are the ones who get paid. Faith isn't magic. It's a framework for action. Too many people treat faith like a lottery ticket, hoping that if they just believe hard enough, their life will shift without them having to move. But real faith doesn't remove your responsibility. It reveals it. It opens your eyes to what's possible, not to what's automatic. When you truly believe in something bigger than where you are, your steps start to align with your vision. Faith gives you the clarity to see beyond your current condition and the courage to act before the evidence shows up. That's the difference between belief and fantasy. Belief works while it waits. People often confuse wishing with faith. Wishing is passive. It waits for circumstances to change before showing up differently. Faith, on the other hand, shows up as if the change has already begun. It builds while others are complaining. It prepares while others are procrastinating. It invests while others are hesitating. You don't need faith for what you can see. You need faith for what you're called to create. And the greater the vision, the stronger your faith must become, because you'll be required to take steps without the full picture in front of you. Faith does not exempt you from discomfort. It demands that you walk through it with expectation. When you decide to operate by faith, you stop asking, what if it doesn't work? And start asking, what if it does? That shift in thinking unlocks action. And action grounded in faith is different than hustle based on fear. Hustle says, I have to make this happen or I'll fail. Faith says, I'll do everything I can and I trust the results to meet me on the other side of obedience. That's the kind of mindset that produces sustainable progress, not burnout. Your faith must be tied to a vision bigger than comfort, bigger than convenience, and bigger than comparison. If your vision is only as strong as your circumstances, then your faith will always be fragile. But when your vision is tied to purpose, your faith becomes the fuel that moves you through resistance, rejection, and even failure. Because when you know that what you're building is bigger than you, you don't need constant motivation. You operate from divine conviction. That kind of faith rewrites stories. It takes people from obscurity to influence, from fear to leadership, from lack to overflow. But it only works when it's active, not abstract. Faith that doesn't move you won't move anything else. Your wealth begins where your excuses end. Excuses are the invisible chains that keep people bound to average, even when they have the potential for greatness. Most people don't fail because they lack talent or opportunity. They fail because they keep rehearsing reasons why now isn't the right time, why they're not ready, or why someone else has it easier. But every excuse you make is a deposit in the bank of delay. You're not just postponing action, you're postponing transformation. And the cost of that delay compounds over time. The longer you make room for excuses, the smaller your vision becomes, and the harder it is to break free from the mindset of lack. Excuses feel like protection, but they're actually poison. They give you comfort in the moment while silently stealing your confidence, your momentum, and your future. The excuse that says, I don't have the money, stops you from finding creative ways to generate it. The excuse that says, I don't know where to start, keeps you from asking the right questions or seeking mentorship. The excuse that says, "I've failed before," traps you in shame instead of turning your failure into instruction. Excuses keep you emotionally safe and financially stuck. They are clever lies wrapped in partial truths. Wealth doesn't show up when things are perfect. It shows up when you stop waiting for perfect conditions. When you eliminate the option of an excuse, you force your brain to become solution-oriented. You move from "why me" to "what now?" That shift creates urgency. And urgency is a multiplier of action. Most people live in neutral. They're always waiting for clarity, waiting for support, waiting for motivation. But the people who break through are the ones who decide that waiting is no longer acceptable. Everything changes when you take full ownership. You may not be responsible for how your story started, but you are responsible for how it ends. Ownership gives you your power back. As long as your excuses are louder than your execution, your results will always be limited. But the moment you decide to take extreme responsibility, without blame, without self-pity, you become the author of a new reality. You begin to see that every excuse you lay down becomes a brick in the foundation of your next level. Because wealth isn't built by the most gifted, it's built by the most disciplined, the most accountable, and the most unwilling to keep telling the same story that hasn't served them. So now the question is simple, but life-changing. Will you keep living in the story that broke you, or will you rise into the one that builds you? Because every excuse you let go of, every belief you rewrite, every decision you make from vision instead of fear, that's a step out of the trash and into transformation. You were never meant to stay stuck. You were never meant to settle. You were created with the capacity to solve problems, to create impact, to walk by faith, and to produce wealth that reflects purpose. But it doesn't start with money. It doesn't even start with opportunity. It starts with ownership. It starts with obedience to the calling on your life. It starts with you deciding, "I'm done living in default. I'm stepping into design." Your story isn't finished. Your past is not the punchline. It's the prologue. You've got a pen in your hand and a blank page in front of you. It's time to write the kind of life that doesn't just change your income. It changes your legacy, from the trash to the treasure, from excuses to execution, from stuck to unstoppable. It's time to rewrite your story, and this time, make sure it ends in overflow.